Film. A wondrous art form around since the late 1800s. A staple in influencing cultures around the world. Think Steven Spielberg, Aaron Sorkin, Martin Scorsese, the great film composers of our time. John Williams, Thomas Newman, James Horner, Green Day. Yes, today, folks, we will be discussing a true celebration of film and art making as a whole. A true American classic. Surf's Up. Okay, yes, the intro was a bit, but do not misunderstand me. Surf's Up is a masterpiece in my book, and I'm here today to convince you why if you think otherwise. Now, for those that don't know, Surf's Up is a movie about singing penguins, and how a penguin lacking vocal talent finds his way in society through the art of tap dancing. Oh wait, sorry, wrong anthropomorphic penguin movie from the 2000s.
Wow! If I had a nickel for every time
An animated anthropomorphic penguin movie where they have weirdly specific talents was released in the 2000s.
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Surf's Up is a mockumentary-style comedic movie about surfing penguins released in 2007. Now, if you have not seen this movie, I'm probably already on the losing side of this argument. An animated movie about surfing penguins? Yeah, okay. Well, I have news for you if you haven't seen it. This is not going to be one of those videos where I spend half of my time just explaining the entire movie's plot to you. Go watch it, you losers, and if you want to stick around with no context, well, Geek is Big Z. I'm sorry, I couldn't take it any longer. I've been holding that in for 15 years. Okay, so I was making some pretty bold comparisons and claims up there, and you're probably thinking, Emmy, let's hear what you have to say, because we strongly respect your opinion and insight on such a culturally impactful subject. And to that, I say, thank you. First point. It's a movie about surfing penguins. I really don't think elaboration is necessary. I mean, the world consists of anthropomorphic penguins and otters and chickens and sea urchins.
Stepped on me. Stepped on me? Are you kidding? This guy was dancing on me. I mean, just look at this. Broken, gone, broke.
But there's also non-anthropomorphic birds, so that's something. It's about birds that are supposed to live in the Arctic, participating in a sport in a setting that is tropically hot. It's stupid, and I love it. Moving on. This movie has something that I honestly think is kind of missing in today's media: simplicity. This movie is not trying to do much. It's trying to present an endearing, simple story with endearing characters, some good laughs, and a slight touch on self-acceptance and defeating ego. I'm entertained, I'm drawn to the characters, I'm listening to a good soundtrack, and I'm having an overall swell time. This movie is trying just hard enough to where it does something unique with its delivery without taking itself too seriously. It's fun, it's simple, it's good. Now, I might be a little biased on this one, but for some background, I actually grew up in a beach town in Florida, and while I was never very good, I was in fact at one time in my life a surfer girl. Now, I was never personally that involved in the surf community, but I did in fact have a friend who was very much involved in surf contests and the general surfing scene that allowed me to tag along and experience it alongside her. The feeling of that community is comforting to me, and the portrayal of it in this movie is spot on. You can tell that someone actually involved in the culture created this, and they really captured the environment of it to a T, even having cameos from real-life pro surfers Kelly Slater and Rob Machado. I love this about the movie, since you don't really see surf culture, especially not accurately, on display much in films. It's a unique, fun, and laid-back environment just like it is in real life, and they really captured the personality of this community and made it accessible to any audience. I also think it's super fun how accurately they portray a surfing event, from the commentator being a real-life well-known sports commentator, Sal Masekela, to the interviews, the SPEN jingle, and even the graphics and instant replays as if it is actually being televised. Even more so, it gets the actual surfing right. The physics of the waves and the physics of the surfers interacting with the waves are pretty well done. Granted, there is always going to be a bit of over-dramatization or physics bending when it comes to animation, but I think what really stands out here is that they do the smaller details justice, and more importantly, capture the very essence of what it's like to catch a wave. Overall, I think it's an interesting and comforting community and culture that is not only not explored much in film, but not easily accessible to experience in most places of the world, so I'm happy to see it portrayed so accurately and pleasantly. The characters in this film are one of the best aspects. They are endearing but flawed in a way that keeps you rooting for them to work through their issues. Except for Chicken Joe. He has no flaws. They are written in a relatable and charming way, just like real people. I mean, penguins. They have character arcs, but realistic and subtle ones that make sense for their personalities and circumstances. None of these characters are hard to follow or understand. They are relatable, relatively simple, and overall entertaining. Their chemistry with each other is fun, and they bring out the best in each other in their individual journeys. The main protagonist, Cody Maverick, is the stubborn and naive young apprentice with a passion for surfing who's held back by his ego problem. Similarly, Geek, or Big Z, is an older, beloved surfer who has retreated into the shadows of his own ego problems after faking his own death. The drama. Both of these characters mildly serve as foils to each other in the sense that they share opposite variations of the same conflict. Cody's young and hasn't grasped what's truly important about doing what he loves yet. His ego manifests as overconfidence, which leads to insecurity once he realizes he doesn't actually know anything. Geek, on the other hand, is older and wiser. He has a more fundamental understanding of not only what is important about surfing, but what is not. However, his ego had led him on a path of insecurity and competition over passion and enjoyment, and he ultimately gave up everything out of shame. Cody gives Geek a chance to uncover all of the good he had locked away that he probably thought he had lost. Add in the context that Geek is actually Big Z, Cody's biggest childhood role model and motivation for surfing, and you have a really interesting situation. Cody grew up without a father figure and with an unsupportive mother, so having someone finally taking an interest in him and his passion is new. He is so used to doing things on his own and being the one person who believes in himself that it sets him on an interesting journey of breaking down walls and actually accepting help. Both characters create an engaging relationship with each other and help the other reach different goals on the same journey of ego death. This movie also has some great side characters such as Lonnie and Chicken Joe. Lonnie is Geek's niece and mainly serves as a positive influence and connection between Geek and Cody, as well as also serving as a subtle love interest for Cody. She's low-key a girl boss and serves as a good example for both Geek and Cody in the sense that she is secure in herself and her life and wants to see the same for both of them. She is a good friend and truly wants to see them overcome what's holding them back, encouraging them to seek happiness and success. Finally, the main event, Chicken Joe. Chicken Joe is, yes, a chicken who surfs on a corn-shaped surfboard. He is lovable and hilarious and honestly doesn't do much in the film but wander around looking for Cody and serve as comedic relief. But on a serious note, he also serves as the ideal of what not only both Geek and Cody are subconsciously working towards, but the entire surf community as a whole. Chicken Joe is the definition of ego death. He doesn't care about how he's perceived, he doesn't care if he's a winner or a loser, he is there for the good vibes and the good vibes only.
How's it feel to win, Joe?
I won?
His passion for surfing is genuinely absolved of any negativity or expectation, and as long as he's doing what he's passionate about, he's fulfilled.
We're in the finals, Joe!
No way, we get to surf some more?
Joe genuinely sets a great example of what perspective both Geek and Cody should be trying to achieve. Did I mention he surfs a giant corn? There are also side characters such as Reggie Belafonte, Mikey Abramowitz, Cody's mom Edna, and Cody's brother Glenn. None of these characters play that big of a role other than to move the plot along and serve as occasional comic relief, but I again think they serve a good purpose of creating an idea of the negative routines and mindset that both Cody and Geek could fall into if they did not take hold of their own lives and grow in the way they do by the end of the movie. The disillusionment with life, being overtaken with narcissism and general unhappiness are the possible fates of those who give up on themselves or their passions and choose to carry negativity and crippling insecurity with them throughout life. Now, I personally think the main antagonist in this movie is ego itself, but in a more traditional sense, Tank Evans and partially Reggie Belafonte serve as the villains. Tank is the foil of Chicken Joe and not only bullies the other characters, but ignites the flame that sends Cody on his journey in which he thinks his ultimate goal is victory. I think his presence helps portray the idea that a lot of times we think our battle lies with other people when really we are up against ourselves. I think this is a battle that a lot of athletes face. Who am I really competing with? And not only what do I want to prove, but who do I want to prove it to? It's a simple yet effective message. Interestingly, due to this film being shot in a documentary style, the cameramen themselves actually kind of end up as characters of their own.
Oh, well, that's great. As long as we're all having fun, right?
Granted, they are always behind the camera and are never really developed or anything, but it is interesting to hear their commentary and see how they interact with the characters and events unfolding before them. It adds an extra layer of life to the film and brings something new to the table. I also want to give a shout out to the kid penguins in this movie, the main ones being Arnold, Kate, and Smudge. They are adorable and hilarious, and they deserve to be recognized. Moving on. Now listen, if you still aren't convinced, this is where the film truly shines. When looking into the behind the scenes of how this film was made, it really solidified in my mind why this movie feels so unique and special. Let's start with the backbone of any good film. The casting. The cast in this film is so perfect and is probably the main reason why this film is so enjoyable. We have Shia LaBeouf as Cody Maverick, Jeff Bridges as Geek, Zooey Deschanel as Lonnie, Napoleon Dynamite himself, John Hader as Chicken Joe, and Diedrich Bader as Tank Evans. So many great names, so absolutely perfect in their roles, and that's not even mentioning the supporting cast. We have Mario Cantone as Mikey and Hades himself, James Woods as Reggie Belafonte. I mean, these are incredibly talented actors, and it shows in this film. The way the voice acting was recorded was, I think, crucial to the overall feel and realism of this film. Instead of sticking to a meticulously planned out script, they allowed the actors to have fun with their lines and heavily rely on improv. I mean, most of the hilarious side character Arnold's existence in this film is due to on-the-fly improv from Zooey Deschanel. We also have improv to thank for Tank's TikTok famous "These are my ladies" scene.
The sessions were really different because there was just a loose outline of what we were supposed to hit, and you never know which way it's going to go.
These are my ladies. Dana, Lydia, Jeannie. I dream of
Instead of being separated, the actors were many times placed in the same room for scenes, which really allowed this life and realism to flow from their work. The chemistry was genuine, and they were able to not only build off of that, but each other's humor and creativity as well. I think this really brought something special to the film and complemented the casual and off-the-cuff environment that the documentary style created. While I not only think this was an important creative decision to ensure the tone of the film was working, I also think this is just such a great method to get the best performance and chemistry out of your actors, and it shows. I think another huge asset to this film is the child actors. They are so cute and funny and really capture the essence of why kids are so hilarious sometimes. While most of the credit is due to these kids for being so adorable, I again think this laid back and off-the-cuff method of recording really helped the kids give their best performance. They were having fun, given creative freedom, and you can really tell they were comfortable in their environment. This creates magic because no matter how hard adults try to write a script accurate for a child, it just never does justice in capturing their youthful naivety and charm.
Who would you like to see win the trophy?
It's not so important to me. Friends are better than anything in the world.
Friends are forever. Trophies, never know what that can happen to them.
Moving on to the more technical side of things, let's finally talk about the documentary style filming that I have been praising. Remember that groundbreaking new motion capture technology that The Lion King 2019 bragged about? Yeah, Surf's Up did it first. For those that are not familiar, they use special motion capture technology to capture this film. Essentially, what this technology allows them to do is to insert themselves and their camera into an animated scene and environment where they have 360 access to film it however they want, just like it would be in real life. This is what creates the raw, handheld look of what the camera is capturing, and the movement is real. Every little camera movement and angle you see is a conscious decision and action in real life from the real cameraman. While the main motivator behind this creative decision was obviously to create an animated film that feels like a documentary, this method actually allowed them to get creative with how they approached a scene and brought a lot of life and fluidity through how they decided to move through that scene. The directors mentioned specific creative decisions such as having the cameramen hide behind brush as if they were trying to discreetly capture a private moment, or the way the camera movement portrays this awkwardness and hesitancy on what to do next when Geek falls off the cliff. All of these subtle decisions bring such realism and and life into the work, and really contribute to what I was mentioning earlier regarding how the cameramen act as side characters as well through the way they interact with the other characters, environments, and action before them. Now, before getting fancy and creative with how the animation will be filmed, there of course has to be a solid base layer of great animation as well, and this film has it. While it may not be as impressive as some of the current examples of animation that we have today, I think it does a great job and provides us with some beautiful shots. Of course, being a surfing movie, the main star of the show is the waves. I think they did a beautiful job on this aspect and really put in the effort to create something that does justice to the beauty of real life, even seeking counsel from pro surfer Kelly Slater to capture the realest wave possible. While I think the animation in this movie is beautiful in general, it's even more impressive when you factor in the fact that this movie is over a decade old and still holds up wonderfully. I mean, the final scene of this film has stood out to me visually since I was a child and is one of my favorite animated scenes ever. No, I won't die on that hill, that's just my unobjective opinion, okay?
That's my opinion!
Now, could this probably be grouped into the category of production? Yeah, probably, but trust me, this deserves its own chapter because this soundtrack is a banger. And for once, I am being a normal person and mainly talking about the movie's soundtrack, not score. Yes, there is a difference, not that I would know. Help. I mean, look at this lineup. Green Day, Pearl Jam, Incubus, Dirty Head, Sugar Ray. It's a 2000s dream. I'm obviously not going to play the music because I'll get copyright striked and I don't want to lose all $0 I can make off of this video, but I mean, there's not one, but 2 Green Day songs. Need I say more? This soundtrack not only perfectly fits the vibe of this movie, but is also completely accurate to what a real surfer's playlist sounds like, again, capturing the feeling of real surf culture. There's even a great 60s style Hawaiian song, the Hawaiian War Chant, and the original banger, Reggae Got Soul. If you know, you know. Okay, after a bit more research, I did find out that Reggae Got Soul is not actually original to Surf's Up, but is in fact a song by the beloved Jamaican musical group Toots and the Maytals, which is honestly a relief because this movie adapted part of the song is honestly indefensible. Please go give the album a listen if you haven't, and you will get the true effect of what I'm talking about. Now, in most films, I usually think the film score itself is the star of the show, but in this case, the score takes kind of a back seat. I actually think this really works due to the documentary style of the film. The score is relatively simple and doesn't take any risks, yet it invokes emotion when needed. I think it's a perfect fit for this film and helps keep the center of attention on the fact that this isn't supposed to feel like a traditional film. Just like the actual script, if anything in this film was too curated, I don't think it would work as well. Now, this is a hot take coming from me, as I'm usually ready to put the score in any film on a pedestal as the leading man, but in this case, I'm glad it takes a backseat and lets the story tell itself, only complimenting it when necessary, just like a real documentary. Not to mention that while I don't think the score is anything life-changing, I do really enjoy the moments when it does take itself a little more seriously. Look, I know the concept is a little silly, and at the end of the day, this film is relatively simplistic, but I truly think it's something special. There are a lot of great animated movies out there, but the effort of Surf's Up to do something different and new really stands out. When I step back and look at this film, especially considering it was released 15 years ago, I see something truly unique. I see a group of people making something they were really passionate about, which is sadly not true for a lot of media these days, and honestly, I think as time passes, it only solidifies what a great piece of entertainment this is. It's fun, it makes you laugh, it's well done, it doesn't take itself too seriously while still being intelligent, and most importantly, it's inspired. Yes, the movie about surfing penguins is inspired. And honestly, I think that's why it takes you by pleasant surprise. It sounds stupid, like it's just another brain-numbing kids movie, and it's so not? Anyways, I said my piece, and you're probably thinking right now, Emmy, only you could write a 12-page script about an animated surfing penguin movie. Please go to therapy. And I must break the scary news that I have a lot of therapy, and yet here I am finding myself on the Surf's Up fandom wiki page looking at Arnold's personality description. Ah, nothing yet. But good news, guys, his status says alive. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Go watch Surf's Up and appreciate it for the masterpiece it is. Listen to the album at least 5 times, and subscribe this time because I am actually going to try to post more consistently. Feel free to bully me in the comments until I pull through on that one. I know this video was much more casual than my previous one, but I'm looking forward to doing a mix of both fun videos and more elaborate videos in the future. So see ya next time. ? I promise it won't be 6 months this time, guys. But we'll leave the question mark there because who knows, right? Okay, bye.
He's a dirty trash can full of poop.